Good afternoon, everyone. So, where should I start? I want to start by acknowledging FotoFocus for this wonderful event that they have coordinated with about 96 venues and over 100 photographers to really give the photographers an opportunity to highlight the work that they're doing. And as you see, looking around this gallery, we have a lot of talent here. So Ed Dixon's gallery, I want to thank you all. I also want to acknowledge those people behind the scenes in the arts community in Dayton and surrounding areas, and as well as throughout the state of Ohio, who are making sure that art is a viable part of our communities. Montgomery County Arts and Culture District, the Kettering Foundation, Democracy and the Arts Initiative, Culture Works, to name a few, and I just want to acknowledge those people so that they can continue to invite the artists into spaces that we would not normally see art. The thing that I chose is Memorial Day. I spent some time up in the VA cemetery leading up to Memorial Day, and I was trying to identify a story or stories that could captivate people in terms of the photography aspect. And I ran across the subject of the pictures that you see here, the photographs, and it was because of him passing by on the street, on the public transit. He saw a sign or symbol that he thought was a Confederate flag. So he exited public transportation, came up into the cemetery to investigate, and he pulled the information up on his phone, and that upset him because he felt like it was disrespectful to the veterans and their spouses who were buried in the cemetery. And this was the action that he took, a one-man protest. I called it Rebel Flags because as I went into the research and looked at it, I understood that it was more about the symbolism. We all have our own interpretations of certain symbols. It's based on our culture, our identity, our history, and how we view things from our perspective may not necessarily be how others will view them. So in the description, it talks about the symbol of the St. Andrew's Cross, which is a battle flag, and how that was appropriated from various groups of people to symbolize other things. And it also raised historical questions about how African Americans have been subject to forms of brutality and control based on white supremacy. So all of those things played into it. And as I snapped the pictures, I also thought about the neighborhood which it was situated in and what is happening in the neighborhood in terms of some of the gentrification and the changes that are around there. And it just sort of allowed me to really focus in on the subject and tell us a visual story, which I enjoy doing as a writer. I think it complemented my writing and the photography together. So I look forward to examining this type of photography in the future and bringing more stories as a visual story.
Anybody got any questions?
So you were lucky enough to see this happening by chance?
Yeah, because I was kind of trying to figure out, it was so many stories. I spent time engaging with people and talking with people. They shared their stories of their loved ones who had been buried there. And that was interesting. It was like a community coming into the National Cemetery from all over the country, because he is not a resident of Dayton. He just happened to be passing by. And I didn't know what the story would end up being, but when this happened, he was so passionate that I said, this will be my story. Yeah.
Did you talk with him after you saw these?
Yeah, I talked with him. He actually approached me because he saw the camera, and he was like, did you see that? And I'm like, what? And then I saw what he was pointing to, and then I was like, well, how did I miss that? So that caused me to do a little more investigation, and I was happy to learn the titles of each of the photographs represent the conversation that we had. I also composed a poem that is overlaid over the United States flag, which also represented the conversation that we had. So, yeah, I just thought this was a history lesson for me. And I learned something about the origins of Memorial Day. I didn't realize that it had started officially shortly after the Civil War to commemorate the soldiers who had died.
Well, once again, this is images from Storytellers exhibition featuring 5 different photographers, which we'll hear from this afternoon. One being Gregory, Shon Freeman, who just finished his presentation, and this is all part of the 2024 FotoFocus Biennial with the theme of backstories. So I want to bring up the next photographer, which is Alfred Powell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alfred Powell, photographer. Started off by wanting to show what we do in football, as far as because I'm a coach as well for Dunbar High School. So what I was noticing back in the day, a lot of times that we didn't have pictures of any of our players, ex-players, stuff like that. So sometimes even when you go to the school, like at Dunbar High School, we had the #1 draft pick a long time ago, but there's no pictures in the school of him besides him in his Cincinnati Bengals jersey and stuff like that. So when I became a coach, I also wanted to do a couple other things and just bring light to what you see. And then sometimes we tend to look at records. Oh man, they're 4-6 or they're 9-1, but you don't have a story of what happens and stuff like that. So obviously we start taking the camera, and the theme became We Believe in Us. So there's also a documentary movie on We Believe in Us that's on Amazon, YouTube, and we showed it in the Neon Theater twice. It was like 2016, 2017. But as coaches, we kept the same thing going. So the We Believe in Us is just to basically show, like, we have practice, we have games. Some of those are senior nights. Also, you know what I'm saying, there's always a thing about racism in football as well. So, like, the referee shot is, the referee cheated. They're human. And as you see, like, they talk to the players before the game too, so they don't come into the game biased or whatever. And then a lot of things, and then, like, it's a playoff game, West Dayton versus Clinton Massey. So if you know where that's at, that's Wilmington, Ohio. So the percentage of black and white is totally different there. Same color uniforms though. So just wanted to show, like, people don't see handshakes before the game. you don't see it. So I wanted it to show like people do get along. These kids nowadays, these kids even exchange Instagram and things like that. But the handshake is powerful because this is what, no matter you win or lose, at the end of the day, you're a winner. And no matter how it goes. But I just wanted to always just focus on like the first picture is like practice. So you have to compete against each other. So it starts by competing against each other at first. And then other ones are facial expressions. These are all natural shots and not set up. I'm actually coaching at the same time as I'm taking pictures. and I see something and I know players like, hey, take a picture of me, coach. No. I need y'all to actually be doing what y'all do, warming up, getting together, becoming teammates, and different things like that. Like to show and it was funny because this is focused, and I wanted to show some of our players actually being focused, being coached, and different things like that. Even the T-shirt that one of the coaches have on is amazing because a kid committed suicide. He didn't play football, but he played basketball. So the players wanted to represent him throughout the next season, and so they put a slogan on the back of the T-shirt to represent that kid as well. So that's the coach has that T-shirt on, and the kids wore that same T-shirt underneath their uniform. All this year was 11 games because we made it to the playoffs. But it's just to show facial expression, the vision, and just different things from the kids what we don't see before the games because it's funny because the significant others always ask, well, why does it? If the game doesn't start till 7, why y'all got to be at the game at 5? Here we go. But or after the game, you sit there and wait for the kids as well. But these are the pictures that I chose because they all have meant something, and every kid besides one, because he still plays high school football, is gone to college and is on to the next level. So what we also teach the kids on the next level doesn't mean that you have to go to Ohio State. You can go to Findlay, you can go to Wilmington, you can go to Defiance, any college to get a free education, and that's also what we teach. So that's where that slogan comes in, that we believe in us and stuff like that. So because we're trying to get every kid to the next level some way, somehow. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, so Dunbar does have such a storied athletic history, right? Like
yes.
A lot of legends came out of that school, a lot of good football, basketball, other sports programs over the years. Why don't you think it has been memorialized better? Why don't you think we haven't recognized our legends and taking pictures and making sure that we have something to remember those moments with?
So a lot of times it starts with one person. And it was funny because I was talking to somebody last night, and I said I don't want to toot my own horn, but ever since I brought out the camera maybe 7-8 years ago and started doing stuff like that, we had a game Thursday night, and there was from all ages of 17-year-olds to maybe 50-year-olds that had cameras out on the field now. And it was so that was something that we wanted to bring because, like, to answer the question is, there was just nobody wanted to do it, and all you was getting was newspapers. So now we go back and look for those same pictures. They're no longer in color; they're in black and white. Right. So, yes.
I'm really drawn to the images of hands in those pictures, and I just think it's a really nice element. A couple pictures, obviously, the hands are doing something, but even the man on the bench with his hands sitting on his lap, and the handshake, I just think it's a real nice element, almost all those photos.
Oh, thank you. It was trying to capture it, and then, because at some time, I had to ask the kids, what are these hand signals? Because honestly, it was funny because I'm like, man, I'm not posting this on Instagram or whatever because sometimes it is like I gotta make sure that we're not throwing up game related signs. And they was like, no, coach, this is like for life. This it's for life. It's about football forever. It's about Dunbar. It's just about being a family for life. Let me go look this up. I said, because I was like, hey, we're not, this is what we don't represent, and we don't want to put out a certain image of that. But yes, so the hands gestures, everything was always like an important thing, and even the kid covering up his face, and I had to realize, yeah, I mean, you got some Joker gloves. Yes. Yes.
That brings up a question in photography is sometimes what we think is the focus is not the focus of the picture. Can you talk about that when you are capturing an image and then later on as you review that image you see something else that's more compelling?
Right. Yeah, so that's great because you get like you say, you take 200 pictures and you get home and now you're looking at pictures and you're like, okay, this is this, and then you see something and you like, oh wow, this brings out that picture. Like, so as a photographer, I maybe was shooting for something else, but when I got home and put it on the computer, I saw something else, and I'm like, and it's something that at first like people don't understand, and then you point it out to them, or somebody else pointed out to them, because art has it's in the eyes of the beholder. But once you see something, you be like, oh yes, I have that picture, I got that image. I'm going to print it out or put it in a book, or this is going into my living room, or I'm gonna take this one down to the high school and ask them, do they want to hang this up as well? Yes. Any more questions? Great. But thank you. I appreciate it. The love. Y'all all getting compliments. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Shon Curtis.
What's up, everybody? Thank y'all for coming out. Yeah, what can I say about the process of creating these images? Honestly, for a long time, I would have thought I was going to be a chef until I became a photographer, and that kind of sealed the deal for me. So there's always been this love and appreciation for the culture around food. In this particular instance, there's this restaurant that's in the Oregon district named Culture, ran by Chef Dane, who is a private chef at times, who actually is about to give that up because the Culture has taken off. It's running great. He's about to open another business at the Silos called the Nude Bar, which is a noodle shop. So I suggest everybody go to the Oregon district and go to Culture, try out some food, tell them I sent you. I'm not saying it's gonna give you a discount, I'm just saying tell them I sent you. But the idea behind these shots are, I sit in this restaurant from time to time, and I notice the choreography that goes into cooking, right? I notice the choreography that goes into planning a menu, and how much of that art form lives in a space like a restaurant or at home, right? And if you've been in this space, it's a shotgun restaurant. You can see the back door from the front door. And that means it's not a lot of room to move. So everything has to be meticulous. Every movement has to be intentional. Everything has to be planned. So what I set out to do was to capture each essential moment that they had, or at least what I felt was a subject that was essential to what they were doing, whether it was creating this menu, whether it was serving food for the day, whether it was prepping food for the day, because they have a prepper that comes in there at 7 o'clock in the morning, which was a really hard time for me to wake up to go to. And I mean, it took me 2 weeks to adjust my schedule to get up at 5, to pack my bag at 6, to get there by 7. 2 weeks. It's been since high school since I got up that early, which is great. But I made it happen at some point. And to watch as this person who zones out of the world is in there by himself, meticulously chopping, meticulously cutting everything, getting everything ready for the day so that everything is efficient. I thought something about that was really beautiful. And of course, with the theme of backstories being this idea of capturing what it is that goes into these processes. I'm like, okay. For instance, the pot that's on this back wall is a pot that rolls all day long with consomme and different things that go into each dish. So it's almost like a lot of this menu is centered around pieces like that. This pot that reminds me of my grandmother's pot, because my grandmother used to cook, not too well, but she used to cook nonetheless. But it's these memories we have, you know what I'm saying? No, rest in peace. My grandmother was amazing. She is always like that. My grandmother was amazing. I want to start off by saying that. I should have said that from the beginning before I even introduced who I was. My grandmother was amazing. That's why. But like something like a pot that's rolling all day is like, that's part of who I am, right? Seeing this last shot over here of Andes and knowing exactly what that smell is without even lifting the top off of that vessel. Because my mother cooks with Andes, my grandmother cooks with Andes, I cook with Andes, which is a cornmeal, for anybody that doesn't know. It's a cornmeal-based thing that you coat things to fry, right?
Yeah.
So, having these recollections of my past and allowing myself to tap into that as I create these pieces, I thought was important. Just as important as it is to the people that are using these pieces. The finance man who is the person that controls the books, but is also a chef in his own right and been cooking for 16 years. I thought that was important because this person literally tips and balances the scale of this restaurant to make sure it stays open. But to be able to do that and come in early enough to cook for the whole day, I thought was extraordinary, right?
Right.
And if you look carefully, each subject of each photograph is in each other photograph. So it tells the story of the entire kitchen. The pot, the man who's on the pot, the man that's taking the thing from the bowl sitting there as the other man cooks on the fryer, and then coming down to the Andes. So yeah, that's what I did, Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you receive something from it. And it's really a prelude to my first published project, which is going to be a book. All right. You didn't hear that? That was crazy. That scared me half to death. I didn't know what it was. So there's a book coming out of this. It's going to be a cookbook because I wanted to have a utility, but I also wanted to sit on somebody's table as a piece of art. So it's going to feature Black chefs across the country, and I'm starting here in Dayton, Ohio. And it'll be a year or so before it comes out. But yeah, this is Hands That Remember Culture. Thank you. Any questions? Let them fly. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the dark background or the real. I mean, I like it, but I'm just why do you do that? I mean, why?
Well, so the primary background of their cooking space is stainless steel. So understanding that, knowing that light is going to reflect off of it, knowing that it can bleed into everything else that's in the scene, I kind of understood, okay, if I'm photographing this particular element, I know I want to do it in black and white. I know that any light I put on this is going to illuminate and blossom because I'm also using, I think I was using this lens primarily, and there's a black pro mist on this lens, this little filter that's on here. And when you photograph light with this lens, it blooms, right? It creates this little dreamy effect. If you look at that third picture, those lights are illuminating because of that filter. So you kind of got to dial everything down to understand that I'm not trying to overexpose everything, but I want everything to be in enough crisp detail for it to come out in print. So yeah. Right.
I can appreciate the various photos and living through your eyes in these photos because I too wanted to become a chef. Didn't do it. But it's really amazing how you can capture someone's life and you can feel yourself within that. So I really appreciate your art.
Thank you. And you didn't do it yet. Doesn't mean you're not going to do it.
Not yet.
Yes, sir.
So you said that, and now I noticed that these elements, you find each element in the photos progressively. Was that something that you mapped out ahead of time, or was that something that you discovered as you went back and looked and reviewed the photos that you gathered?
It was something I discovered as I went back and reviewed because, I mean, ultimately, you kind of know that's going to happen because the space is smaller, right? So you know that things are like subjects are going to be in, you know, the same place they were unless somebody touches it and moves it. So understanding that, when I came out with the layout of, you know, the pieces, I'm sitting here with Ed, I'm like, hold on, wait a second. This is telling the story. This is making sense, right? This is here and this is here. So then that, of course, means that has to go there, right? So like, I think as the project went on, I realized, okay, it is a story and it's a full story because you're getting, and then if you go to the restaurant, you see that story as you walk back to the back door, you know? So yeah, it comes out in post more so than while shooting.
You know, so chefs are, cooks
Yeah,
are, amazing people.
I agree.
And they
1000%
should be
agree.
documented.
See, we're here because the idea is, I'm not just taking professional chefs, I'm taking home cooks, everybody.
You should go to Springfield. Is it Springfield?
It is.
And go. We went to that restaurant, right, Kirk?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was a lot of rice and this and that.
Which restaurant? Y'all gotta tell me the restaurant.
It's Rose something. It's the only Haitian restaurant in a great distance.
Rose Gold. Okay, boom. There it is.
Oh, did you go to?
I've been there, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. No, I agree. I 1000% agree. Food connects us, right? That's also what I want these to show, is that food is always gonna connect us, no matter who it is. Freddie, you got a question?
Yes, I do. In this specific set of photos while at a restaurant and of a chef, none of food in particular, is there any rationale or reason for that?
So specifically for backstories, I chose not to highlight the food. The food is amazing, right? I've ranted and raved about this food for months now to everybody I know. And people I don't know. I'm going up to strangers and saying, yo, go here, this food is nice. But I did photograph food, for them a couple times while I was there just to get these images out. But as I got home, I realized, it's not necessarily about the food, it's about the culture. So it's about the story that goes behind the food. Because the food is like the main dish, it's the main subject. And I wanted to show everything that goes into that subject, what builds it up. Julio.
This question is kind of Fred kind of inspired the question, which is also, you did not show the food, which I didn't realize until he brought it up. But you also didn't show the face. And I know your photography has mostly been, portraits. Mm-hmm. So there's also it's almost like the two things that people might associate the most with like a shooting about cooks is like the people, like the cook and the food.
Right.
Or the chef and the food.
Yeah.
And neither one of those are in the pictures.
True. This is true, and that was the intent, right? Like and also I was talking to Jared on the car ride on the way here, and I realized so many people know me for portraiture, and they know me for being able to take someone's picture and to show them themselves in a way, and I use that principle in how I light everything, right? I use that understanding and those concepts to photograph a water bottle when I'm doing commercial work or whatever the case may be. So for this, to tell the story, I didn't necessarily want to focus on a person. I didn't want to focus on the food. I wanted to focus on the process and everything that went around that, But it's good that you recognize that. That's dope that both of you recognize that. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Well, this little group here is all little food service people.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously we love the photos. And I'm just kind of curious about the application that's stuck to the wall. I really want to cut the white borders off, piece them together, and turn it into wallpaper.
Mm-hmm. And you can, theoretically, you can.
It seems like it.
This is called. This is made by Canon. It's called repositional media matte paper, which was funny that I happened to stumble upon it in our print lab. Because I was shooting in black and white when I photographed these, I knew they were gonna be in black and white. So I'm like, okay, when you put work in a space, in a gallery space, it's typically lighting that's gonna be directly on the photograph. So I know that I needed it to be matte. So that's what made me choose a matte paper type. Now, I printed on maybe 6 or 7 different mattes in our studio, and our print assistant said, "Did you peel it yet?" And I said, what did you just say? I said, well, come say it again. She said, did you peel it yet? I was like, no, what are you talking about? And she walks up and peels the back of one of the images. And I was amazed. I was like, you're telling me that this repositional paper means I can reposition this paper? I was like, oh, you say less. Because I knew that I didn't want to frame it, right? Like I came in knowing I didn't want to frame it when it was on the wall. I knew that I was going to try to figure out an application like these boards where it's like putty or something to tack it up, something like that. Did never think about repositional paper. Didn't know about repositional paper. Because I'm like, oh, I don't want to mess up Ed's walls. But literally, it peels off and you can put it back. It's repositional. So yeah, it is like wallpaper.
Did you use a level? How did you?
Oh my God! So this was a practice between Ed and I where we was like, all right, here's the level. We're gonna try to stick it on here. We probably need something to squeeze out the bubbles. But then it's on matte, so the ink, it adheres, but it's a little dusty, so you can get streaks. So I was like, okay, we got to be careful about how we squeeze out the air pockets. So you should have seen us in here trying to figure this out. I'm glad we did it a few days early because I was like, yo, I don't know, But it was trial and error, but we figured it out, and I think they look all right. I think it's cool. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. So the next photographer coming up, somehow we ended up following each other on Instagram, and I just really loved his photos. He's the only photographer here that's not from Dayton. But when I saw his work, I said, yeah, this guy is a storyteller. So I was hoping he would be a part of this exhibition, and he agreed. His work is back there in the back. So James, you want to come up? James and then James.
How y'all doing? We doing all right? Well, first I want to thank out to Ed for the vision that we all came across. Like, documentary storytelling is really, really important in today's age as we move forward, especially here in America. So I really want to thank Ed and FotoFocus for everything that they've done for us to produce this space and to move forward with each own of our visions and our storytelling and whatever our opinions mean moving forward with our photographs. I want to start off with, if you haven't seen the George Floyd protests way up there on the right, it's a lady, she's kind of looking to the side, and let's just all go back to that time of when George Floyd died in America. Like, when we go back to the 60s movement, if you go back to that time, there was a photographer named James Spider Martin who photographed basically what's happening today. But what he described in his photographs, there's calmness, there's passion, there's rage, there's anger in America. And when this happened with George Floyd, these protests, I think everybody was so ingrained in their phones and be like, where can I go and act out to be there for their family, for the Black community, and how we move forward with each other. Because we had so much rage on what happened. But when I had this moment, so usually when I'm going to protest, I don't get really trigger happy with it. I kind of go in, I observe, I see, where everybody's kind of migrating, where where the stirs are coming up, where it's about to shift, where we get all of our opinions in one setting. So one thing I really want to notice is that this time was the most calmest time of this protest. And people were speaking, and we've got, 3,000 people in Dallas came to a pause to really settle down and this lady was just there crying. I mean, and I got her in this moment of just, it was just very disappointing to see like how we haven't come that far. And that was really important for me, and to really think about like my photograph and be like, I think we're questioning ourselves a little bit. And you know, where we want to go moving forward with our own identity and our own opinion and, you know, our political views, they really do matter in a way, but it's how we act on those political views. So that's really important. So that photo really kind of was like the starter for me for this, for my imagery, especially with protests. And then I kind of want to mirror it off to the Israel-Gaza protests that happened. You know, we're already a year in this war, and going to this protest in Cincinnati, this was like a whole different meaning for me. Just because us here, like in America, I don't think we'll truly know how those people are feeling overseas. I don't think that we can actually sometimes even protest over those issues, but when I see their own community come out in America, it makes me feel like we're always so diverse here in America, and we just forget where we live. They're everywhere, we are all in the same place, and we love to really exploit like our own views, and we get a chance to do that. We get a vision to do this, especially when we're out protesting for what we believe in. So if you go to that photo and you realize, you know, this man was, I mean, angry. This was one of the first protests that happened. You know, 2,000 people showed up. But photographing him, he was very powerful. He had this anger, and he wanted to get his family, you know, out of Gaza, and he wanted to reach out and, you know, tell Americans what his side of the story was. And he went, you know, full blast on that protest, and it was amazing to see, because, you know, those protests overseas look a little bit different to our protests. So seeing him like mirroring off from two protests side to side, that these are still happening, and they're all in the same setting here in America. So going to my third photograph, Clarence Thomas. I photograph on social issues in America, a lot of homeless issues as well. And basically part of my stories are, I've been photographing the homeless since 2016, and I started off in San Antonio, Texas. So I found this man, Clarence, literally kind of like 10 minutes from my house. And I see a lot of passion with the homeless community. They deal with a lot of struggle in their own way, and we forget that we blindside towards these people, that they're out there and this is somebody's child. And what they do to their bodies to keep themselves alive, this is what keeps them alive. And the great story with Clarence is that he's on this new drug called, you know, there's fentanyl that we all know, but then there's also Trink. So Trink is a very interesting drug. It's basically like a horse tranquilizer, and when you do like a small dose, you can basically die. So when you take this, it literally can bulge up your hand wherever you take it, like your knees, your veins, your legs, or whatever, and they create these massive wounds in your body, and you can only get medical help for. So if you ever look at images that'll bulge up their body, and then it'll cut through and it'll open wounds. So he was basically on this, and what's crazy about Trink is that it interferes with America's pharmaceutical companies, because the pharmaceutical companies, somebody is selling this to the drug community, and it's getting within their drugs like fentanyl, cocaine, stuff like that. So when you think about like tranq or fentanyl and all that stuff, all this stuff is tied in with America's pharmaceutical companies, and somebody is selling this off. And we don't know who that could be, which is like literally, I mean, I just think it's insane that all this is kind of like a circle. Like we can always look towards the southern border and we can blame all those drugs that come over across that border, but we don't forget that we hold power to the strongest drugs in America. So that, like, I always continue to document just like social issues with the homeless community, protest, and those three photos like really mean like so much to me, and I think they speak loudly on what they interpretate. Is there any questions on those three photos?
It's not really a question, it's a comment. I appreciate the humanity that you show during the protest, because oftentimes photographers want to take the picture of the activists who are fighting. And as somebody who spent time as an activist, I saw it as my job to go out there and fight the powers that be. So you're going to see me on the front line. You're going to see me with my hands up in front of the cops' faces. One of the most iconic photos that came out of the Black Lives Matter protest is this woman in this flowy dress standing face to face. And that's dope. Don't get me wrong, but most people are just kind of sad and just want to live, right? And I think that's what you captured. I think you just captured people just wanting to live. I'm not here because I want to be. I'm not here because I want to fight. I'm here because I don't know what else the fuck to do. And I just want to live, and I'm here, and I'm sad, and I'm angry, and I'm all of these things. And I just want to say you did a good job of capturing that.
Thank you.
What struck me in your photographs is when you're looking at the images, it encapsulates all of the United States, because those images and those faces appear like they could be someone here in this city. And this is happening throughout our country.
Thank you so much. And, going back to protests and social issues that are happening today, we fight these on a daily battle within ourselves, within our neighbor, and we just have to just remember, like, when it comes down to photographs, this is factual. This is what is happening. You can't manipulate that image. And so going to like the backstory of all these three images, they really tell the story to tell. So I'm gonna move on to the mother and her child. So this is more like personal work with me. By heart, I'm a street photographer. This is what I love doing. But when I go out and document cities in this area, and when I go out on the streets, I'm looking for organic interactions. I'm looking for, people to talk with. I'm looking for stories. But this mother and child in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati has its own flair, okay? Like, it's something I've never seen before in a city, and it's literally incredible. But when you go out and document, and I saw this mother and child, I was walking and I came across her, and she was just holding her baby, and we were just right next to each other, and she's like, honey, like, can you just take a picture of me? Like, I really need it. And I was like, absolutely, like, I will take a picture of you. I was like, would you like, me to send it? She's like, no, just take a picture of me and my child. Like, that's it. Like, right here in the corner. She grabbed her kid, she kind of like glanced and looked at me, and I took that photo. And it was just like a perfect image. Like, your mother and child, you're going through, whatever she's going through, she probably needed it that day. But like, street photography is social interaction. You're looking for not that next image. It's not to go out, and maybe it is to go out and photograph the city or anything like that, but going out there to go photograph a natural image and documenting life is extremely incredible of like how you feel when you return, because those images will stay with that city forever, and it can really leave like an historic mark. So this goes on to my next photo, and this is Vine Street in Cincinnati. And if you've ever been to Vine Street in Cincinnati, it is probably one of the most incredible streets I have ever been on. It's so historic. The community there. I mean, there's so much happening. There's life. There's fights. There's alcohol. There's drugs. There's money. There's happiness with like all these kids. But when you go to Vine Street, you know, you can walk all the way up from downtown and go into the OTR range. And on this left side of Vine Street, you know, there's these three gentlemen who were talking about like drugs and alcohol, and they're like, this one guy goes, he's like, just give me my money. Like, I need my money right now. Like, give me my money. So I'm just there and I'm like watching them, like, hey, let's see what happens with this. So one of the men goes, he's like, I need my money right now. Like, go give me my money. So he's like, no, I'm not gonna give you money. Like, go fuck off. So they're literally like going away. And so this image was right before actually everybody started fighting, physically fighting. So all the images that I have around it, they're physical fights of these three men who are literally best friends, and they're, you know, fighting over just silly money. And I'm in there photographing, like, you know, what's gonna happen? I don't know what's gonna happen, but they're just like right in front of me, just all going at it. And it's just like, it's organic, it's live, it's real, it's raw, it's powerful. And what's on Vine Street won't be there in about 2 to 3 years. All this will not be there. Because if I photograph an image like that, above it is, you know, $4,000 to $5 new apartments coming through. And it's like, I know that's gonna be new clientele and I won't see that anymore. So for me to photograph like those images, especially Vine Street, it's something, OTR and Vine Street is something that I hope to become a book one day. And it's just so amazing, like to be a part of Vine Street and to see it visually every single day. It gives me like this nostalgic feel like I'm in the 80s or something. Even though I'm not from the 80s, I'm literally a 90s baby. So that's like pretty cool to see. But those are my 5 images, and I really appreciate everyone on the feedback. It was amazing.
Hi.
Hello.
It's on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. My name is Susanne Conyers, and I have a habit of talking a lot. So I got cards up here because I want to stay on subject. Okay. But I was listening to everybody. If you look around, I want to thank Ed first. So I want to thank Ed first.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Very
I'm glad you clapped. Next, I want to thank all the photographers that are here. Okay. But I represent women. Okay. And my work is in the back. It is The Lady in the Red Dress. And it was taken in New York City. And I was a photographer there. And what happened was, I was sitting, that's my backstory. I was sitting in the photographer's pit, and there may have been 50 photographers there, okay? And we were watching a fashion show, fashion, okay? And I know women can relate to that because we like fashion, even when we don't say it, but we like fashion. And it took me back to when I was a little girl also, and what fashion meant to me. But my mother and my grandmother would say, you can't wear that. That's not for little girls. And that made me recognize the fashion and want to shoot fashion. I'm not political. I don't shoot political things. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. And I had to realize that I'm different too. So I really wanted to talk about art being a form that has emotion. And my photographs do have emotion. And everybody's photographs has emotion of some kind. But mine in particular relates to women and people that love fashion. Not only do I love fashion, but I also love dance. And I dance with DC company here in Dayton, Ohio. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. But I lived in New York for over 20 years. Okay. And so the pictures that you see are called Red Series. And I did a series of 10, 12 photos, and they were at an intermission. While the other photographers were getting lunch, I was sitting there taking pictures of what you see on the wall. And it struck me how happy the woman was. That is my focus. How happy she is. And you can see it in her face. And are you happy? Because emotions are a feeling. How do you feel when you look at something? Whether it's a movie, which is art, it's art, visually or abstract or art history, do you feel a certain way? Are you in tune with yourself to have that feeling, right? I see some blank looks right now too. They're probably trying to feel. Mm-hmm. But I felt really happy. Happiness for me, I think I choose many things to be happy. Because when you're happy, you can think when you're happy. When you're happy, you can think. You know, if you're depressed, you're thinking something negative. But if you're happy, you're thinking something positive. And we need it. That's for the part of our transformation. We need to think happy thoughts so we can move on. We need to move on. It's transformational, the emotion is. Some of the ways that you can have an emotion by the thing that you see with your eyes is through a psychological state or physical response, like you're sweating or you're crying or something like that. Maybe you're snoring at night. Okay? It's behavioral. Are you sweating? Is your heart palpitating? You know? It is cognitive because you're trying to understand why I feel that way. What am I feeling? So when I did the first picture, I was, like I said, I was drawn to the dance. And all of them are dances because I did a series. I chose, let me talk about the viewer and the artist. Whether it is a picture, a photograph, a film, or whatever it is. Are you cooking in the kitchen? You're still doing art, okay? It's still art. So the last picture, the one on the right, where the two people are standing together. Now, the viewer saw something totally different. I didn't even think about it. That was part of my feedback from yesterday. And the viewer actually saw seduction. I saw, as an artist, trust. They trust when they dance together. And that's why I say that art is for everyone. So on the one on the left, you'll notice that the man has a different emotion from the focal point of the woman in the middle. Right. It is totally different. As an artist, I was attracted to his response at that time. maybe it has to do with what they're doing. Maybe. Maybe he started thinking about his girlfriend that's at home. Maybe. You know, everybody has their own understanding of what they see. And I wanted to talk about relationships and how that couple right there has a relationship. What's their relationship? What are your relationships like? Okay? What are your relationships like with people, even with people you meet in the street, or people you see that work on a wall in a gallery? Okay. Like I said, it was a series, and I chose those 3 works out of the series. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the color red. What does the color red? Her dress is flowing. That's the fashion. Her dress is flowing, but her dress is red. What does red mean to you? What do you feel when you see red? Mm-hmm. I see people thinking, I can see y'all's eyes going back and forth. You're thinking about, how do I feel when I see red? Red can be branding too. My brand is red, black, and white. That's my brand. Why did I choose that? I chose red for the blood of Jesus. I chose white for purity. I chose black for the Holy Ghost. And if you got it, you know what I'm talking about. But it can be brandy. When you drink a Coca-Cola, what color is the Coca-Cola? Red and white, right? Uh-huh. So you make an action. An action every time you pick it up or you buy it, you have an action. Okay? And they make you buy it. Okay. Also, you can have an emotion of danger. Danger is if you run a red light. That's dangerous. You know, I drive too. I can drive better than I can walk at this point in life. But, but danger. Why is red? Why did they choose red? Do you understand it? That way it's also cognitive. Interpreting it and understanding when you see the color red. Red can also inspire you. Red is also for shy people. If you wear the color red, you have more confidence and you talk more when you wear red, okay? But those are my 3 pictures. Are there any questions? No questions. Everybody's thinking about how they feel and what was said by all of the photographers in front of you. No questions, no hands? Okay, Greg.
What struck me with each of the photographers is their choice of materials in the photographs that they have here represented. So can you talk a little bit about why you chose to do these photographs on metal?
Oh yeah, my photographs are on metal. I'm different. I wanted to be different. Women are different from men. Like Shon decided to put his stuff on the wall, on a paper that stuck to the wall. I decided to put it on metal. Changa decided to frame all of his, as well as Alfred. Did I miss anybody? James. James made a clear political statement, okay? And so I chose it, Gregory, because I wanted to be different. And I had a different perspective. If you go to a fashion show, you want to see the dresses or what the people created as an artist. But I decided to do dance because I was attracted to it. And like I said, other photographers got something to eat, and I'm sitting there taking pictures, right? So that's why I chose that. Any other comments or anything? Yes.
They're just beautiful.
Thank
They
you.
are.
Thank you very much. All right. So now, wait, there's another question. There's another question.
This is just a comment. I mean, I love your photographs, and you said you were into fashion.
At one point, I was into fashion.
I mean, I'm just digging your glasses.
Thank you very much. There's a backstory about why I was into fashion too. So I hope I met your challenge of talking about my backstory. Okay.
All right, well, let's just give all the photographers one more. That concludes our talk for today. Of course, you're welcome to stay. We're open till 5, so you can stay. You can even leave and come back. But there's a few snacks in the lounge here, some water. I'm gonna turn the music back on. Check out the photography again if you've already seen it, or if you haven't seen it yet, definitely stay and check it out. So thanks again.